Hey, what's up everybody? Hope you're having an amazing day so far. I'm your host Phil, and today's video we're going to check out some dynamic microphones in regards of recording a guitar cabinet. Let's roll that intro clip and then get straight into it. Hope you're having everybody an amazing day out there so far. In today's video, I want to show you different dynamic microphones, how they sound when miking up a cabinet, through always the same riff, reamp that riff, high gain thrash metal riff, just what it sounds like, quick and dirty. But before we get into the tones, and we're going to talk about the tones, I want to first talk about the different microphones and why I've chosen them. So during the last years, I have amassed kind of a collection of different microphones over here, and also from my bandmates, I kind of scolded all the microphones together for this test over here. Let's dive right into the first contender, which is the SE Electronics V7X, which is kind of their take on the SM57 from what I've understood. Has a super cardioid polar pattern, so this could be not only useful for, you know, like usual guitar cabinet miking up, but actually when you are miking up the snare, this could be especially helpful when trying to reduce or minimize the bleed coming from the hi-hat. That's a test for a future video. Right now, in this video, we're only going to check out how this sounds when recording a guitar cabinet. And Christian Kohler had videos on the SE Electronics microphones, which made me very interested in this being an alternative to the SM57. Next up on the list, we got the Audix i5. Now, the Audix i5 has kind of become a modern classic. I know that Delta Empire for snare pretty much exclusively uses either the Audix F5 or the i5, preferably the i5. So I was super intrigued in getting my hands on this, especially for snare microphone. But of course, I also used my chance to test this on guitar cabinets as well. Next up is the purchase which actually kind of kickstarted this journey. Once again, the Shure SM57, the OG. I very recently bought this microphone, and yeah, I was super stoked about how it sounded, but I have to say I got some pretty interesting contenders over here, which might take the cake, but it still remains a legend, an icon, super workhorse microphone, can do a lot of cool stuff, always works, and it's built like a tank, really. Next up, we got the copycat of the SM57, the tbone MB75. Yeah, pretty similar in construction, you know, and from the looks of, but you cannot roll this cap over here, so don't break this over here. And it sounds, yeah, I'm not going to talk about sound right now. I'm getting ahead of myself. We're going to leave that for later. But this is a cool microphone, but not as much as the SM55. Next up, we got the Shure Beta 58A, which I have already shown in my recent video, not on guitar cabinets, but actually comparing it to the copycat of this with vocals. Yeah, this is my go-to microphone for vocals. I recently purchased this one, and it has become very dear to my heart, so I really like this microphone. Very curious to see what you guys think about this. Next up, we got technically not a dynamic microphone, but some condenser pencil microphone, which I just had flying around in the rehearsal room. An Apex 191 condenser microphone with an impedance of 250 ohms. I have no idea how this will fare against the other, well, I actually have an idea, but I had no idea how this would fare against the other microphones before I did the test. Very interesting results, definitely. We used this on hi-hats back then when we recorded our full album last year, but we didn't end up using the hi-hat tracks. So yeah, this was kind of just sitting around on the back burner. Then I got not one, not two, but actually 3 different Shure SM58 iterations. I have no idea from where they are, because this over here, this looks a little bit different than the other ones from the labeling. And it was around about 3 dB louder than these two over here. I got this from a buddy of mine, a former bassist of my former band. So he just gave me this kind of as a thank you for hard work and dedication. Then I got this Shure SM58, which is definitely newer. and was in the original packing, so I kind of test that this is not being a fake. On this one, I'm not so sure, actually. Yeah, but this is actually a real deal Shure SM58, as you can buy it right now in the store. And this is a roundabout, I would say, maybe 10 years old, maybe 12 years old, Shure SM58 with a switch on it. So it's switchable, like on-off switch. Apart from that, run-of-the-mill standard Shure SM58. I can also attest for this being new, because back then our vocalist has purchased that microphone and he kind of left it to our admission. Okay, gonna put those away over here. Then next up we have the tbone MB85 Beta, which I shoot out recently on vocals against the original Shure Beta 58A. Excuse me. So yeah, very curious to see how they fare against each other in the test. And then last but not least, I have tried out the tbone CD56 Beta. Now this microphone is integrated in the DC4000 drum kit. We are using this currently on our live in-ear monitoring setup on the snare. So because it's so super small, super compact, you can just, put it on with the clamp and then you're good to go. So that's cool. We are potentially thinking about replacing this one as time passes by, maybe with an Audix i5 or maybe a Shure SM58. We're not sure yet if we're going to keep this one or if we're going to replace this on snare. But for today, I just took the chance, grabbed one of these and hooked it up on the guitar cabinet as well. So now that we have learned about the microphones, which we're going to compare today, let me show you the signal chain and the setup which I'm using in order to mic the signal up with the different microphones so that we have a full-fledged comparison. For that, I'm first going to change my scene over here in OBS so that you now can see Reaper over here. What I've done is I have recorded a thrash metal type riff over here, which I'm just going to play a little bit from. Now, this is kind of a thrash metal riff with a little bit of an alternate picking stuff, a little bit palm muting, single notes, and so on and so forth. But for comparison's sake, for the first part of the comparison, we're going to leave everything in the looped cycle where I'm just playing the first riff through and through. Now, this signal is going out of the Audient ID44 into a Palmer or a Da Capo reamping box where I made sure that we have unity gain so that the signal is exactly the same volume as if I would play the guitar directly through the following equipment. I'm using the MXR Custom Badass Modified Overdrive, which boosts my Bulgara 6262, which is presence modded. This is very similar to a 5150 MK2. That then in turn goes into my Marshall 4x12 1960 AV cabinet, which is loaded with G12 vintage speakers. And on the grill cloth, I've made sure that I have a white cross so that I can position all of the microphones exactly at the same spot. And I made sure that the distance from the cloth is always the same, just that I did my due diligence in order to make sure that we can make a proper comparison over here. Okay, now I'm gonna unmute, or I'm gonna unsolo this track and actually gonna solo the other tracks over here, which are these tracks which I pre-recorded, of course, one by one. We're going to start with the Shure SM57. I'm going to roll through all of the different microphones over here. You're going to see a marker in the screen below which microphone is currently playing. And after we have played through all of them, I'm going to get a little bit more into nerdery and talking on the difference which I perceive and my thoughts and opinions about it. One thing to note is I have made sure that every single track over here is volume adjusted to match the Shure SM57, because loudness perception is something which I don't want to get in the way when it comes to listening to the frequencies, to the frequency response of the microphone itself. So I made sure with the Julian loudness meter that all of the tracks are of the same volume so that we only can perceive the tonal differences. Okay. With that out of the way, let's start with the Shure SM57 and then roll through all the microphones. Here we go. Let's get rocking. All right, so now that we have rolled through all of the different microphones so that you kind of get a little impression on what they sound like and what the differences are, let me dive a little bit into the comparisons and give you my thoughts and opinions on that one. Of course, your opinions and your mileage may vary. Let me know in the comment section if you agree to my conclusions or if you think totally different about that. Yeah, but I'm just going to roll ahead and let's get started. So first off, again, Shure SM57 versus Audix i5 and V7X, because this is kind of the epicenter of the comparison. Now, my personal impression was initially, or my thoughts were that the Shure SM57 is going to blow them all out of the park because it's the standard. Because I personally, when I choose impulse responses, I love always SM57 on the cap, centered V30. That's my sound. So I was totally surprised to find out that in this comparison, I found this SM57 not bad at all. I like the sound, but it's very harsh compared to the i5 and the V7X. To be honest, I find it a little bit too harsh. So especially when comparing against the i5, this becomes apparent. Now, the i5, in my opinion, is a little bit too dull. It lacks a little bit of the bite. However, it should be noticed that I'm not miking straight at the cap. I'm miking a little bit off center. So I'm somewhere between the cap and the edge to the cone, somewhere in that region. And I think that the i5 would massively benefit if we would move it more to the center. And then it would get that nice sizzle. What I really like about the i5 is the mid bark which it has. It's like super aggressive. It's like, for lack of better terms or better analogies, it's like grabbing someone up by the shoulders and shaking them, you know, like it has this full force approach to it. So, but what I found interesting is that the V7X actually is a very good blend of both of that. It has more characteristics of the i5 than the Shure SM57, but it also has a little bit more of that sizzle, which I like about the SM57. So let's compare the Audix i5 against the V7X, and then a little bit back and forth also between the Shure SM57. So all three microphones would be viable options if we would move them a little bit more towards the center or a little bit more off center. So they all are in a very similar ballpark, which of course is also due to the fact that they're all kind of trying to do the same thing, trying to kind of cater towards the same signal sources. But I found that this is a very interesting, let's say, introspection which you get into the microphones over here and how they work. So next on, we have the tbone CD56 Beta, which is this one. Costs only 40 euros, keep that in mind, or 44 euros, I think. And it's also included in the DC 4000 drum pack over here. So we already got the SE V7X over here, we got the i5, and we got the Shure over here from the shelf. Okay. We're going to compare them against mainly the Shure SM57. Also here, not bad. I really like the mid-aggression which this microphone has. It's not sizzly. It has more of that bark to it, very similar to what the V7X is doing, but with way less low end, which is interesting in itself. It is way louder than the Shure SM57. I think I had to put this around minus 2.3 dB over here. Oh no, hang on. Sorry, that's a wrong track. Yeah, minus 4.2 dB. So this is 4.2 dB louder than the Shure SM57 was. So yeah, this is definitely something to consider, because if you just initially compare them without the loudness, comparison, then the CD56 kind of sounds a little bit more harsh, in fact, than the SM57, which it is not. Okay, next up we got the Shure SM57 against the tbone MB75, which is the copycat of the Shure SM57. Now, I have to say, this does not really sound like a Shure SM57. It sounds good in its own right, no question about that, but it's not really a copycat of the Shure SM57 when it comes to tone. The low end is way more punchy. It has a little bit of a different sizzle, but it's way more scooped than the actual SM57. Let's compare the tbone CD57 Beta against the MB75, because they are in similar price ranges. And then also having the SM57 from time to time. So this one over here has a very polished sound to it, in my opinion. I could imagine that this is really cool for low-tuned guitars where you have a very genty mid-focused sound. I think they could shine over here, but what do I know, Okay, moving on, we're going to compare again the Shure SM57 against the Shure SM58. And since we had 3 different models over here, I have to explain what specific models we're listening to. So the new one, which is definitely a new one, is without the switch, is Teoman. That's the first one over here in my comparison. So this one over here. The second one, which is called Daniel, is the one with the switcher, which I also can verify is an original Shure SM58. So these both are 2 original Shure SM58s. And the third one, which is called Phil, is my personal one, which was 3 dB louder and which looks a little bit different from the labeling, but this could be because this is super old. I don't know how old this is. I just got this from a buddy of mine years back. It has it has a lot of different trademarks which the originals have. So it has like this bevel over here. It has Shure printed on the inner XLR. The XLRs are silver and not gold. So it has a lot of trademarks which show that this is an original Shure SM58, but I cannot say for sure. But haha, no pun intended. Okay, SM57 against SM58. All right, so I think Daniel and Phil are very close to one each other. So my semi-original and the truly original SM57 with the switch are very similar to each other. There's barely a difference I could hear when when making sure that they're same volume. With the original SM58, which is clearly an original one, it was a little bit duller. This is a newer one, so I don't know what's going on with those, but they are within what I would call production tolerances to one each other. And in general, the SM58 is a little bit more smoother, a little bit more relaxed than the SM57, which is super harsh, but also has a nice crack to it. Okay, let's move on. Again, Shure SM57, and then now against the tbone MB85 Beta, as well as the Beta 58R from Shure. Now, to be honest, I like, in fact, the tbone MB85 Beta more than I like the Shure Beta 58A. In my vocal comparison, this was the clear winner, the original. So the Shure was the clear winner, no question about that. But for guitars, I actually enjoyed the tbone a little bit more. So that was really surprising for me. I think that the Shure Beta 58A by now was the one which I liked the least from all of the guitar cabinet microphones. But of course, this is kind of an iconic microphone for voice recording or for live vocal performance, and not for recording guitar cabinets in the studio. Next off, and the last microphone in the comparison, is the Shure SM57 versus the pencil condenser, the Apex 191, which I just found randomly in the rehearsal room. Now, in my personal opinion, I had to put an attenuation, 10 dB, on this microphone over here through the interface, and I think it sounds kind of like the microphone is breaking apart. So kind of the sound, the tonal characteristics are falling apart. It's not capable of capturing the nuances at that kind of a high sound level of pressure. So I think this is not the right choice for such an application over here. But yeah, I could believe, or what I could imagine, that if you have like an full scooped death metal sound, like a lot of people like to use the Marshall valve stay together with a crate cabinet, or with T75 speakers, I think this could sound good through that. Having that little broken feeling to it, but I personally don't dig that too much. Yeah, so when listening to all of these different comparisons, my personal favorite is the V7X, and I'm really, really surprised about that. We're going to compare again the Shure SM57 against the V7X. Okay, I'm going to stop looping, and I'm going to play through the track with some occasional switches between the microphones. All right, and there you have it. That was a rather quick comparison and a long analysis of different dynamic microphones in this particular high gain cabinet mic setup over here. Yeah, I'm really surprised that I'm announcing the winner being the SE Electronics V7X, but this microphone actually had some qualities which I liked out of both the Audix i5 and the Shure SM57, which I personally had a bias towards being the clear winner of this competition over here. So that was really surprising to me that the SE V7X in the end took the cake over here. Now, actually, all of the microphones, maybe except for the Apex 191 condenser microphone, which I didn't like at all of the microphones had their nice unique traits. But if I would have to crown a surprise winner over here, then that would be the tbone CD56 Beta. This is a super cardioid microphone, so it's really useful also on snare and trying to get, you know, less of the bleed from hi-hat or cymbal bleed or that stuff. And this is only 44 euros on Thomann, on the Thomann website. You can purchase this, really good bargain, really good bang for your buck. And yeah, I really like this microphone, you know, away from the price, you know, not looking at the price point. I really dug the sound of this microphone. A second surprise winner would be the Shure SM58. I really dug how this was sounding on the guitar cabinet. This shows that it's not only capable of doing vocal live performances, but also capturing some really good tones out of your guitar cabinet. So if you happen to have one of these, and I would say everybody and their uncle actually owns one of these, then just give it a go. You know, there's not much to lose. And before you shell out the money for an SM57, if you're not after that very, very specific gnarl and snarl of the SM57, then the Shure SM58 is also going to give you a great guitar cabinet tone. And with that out of the way, thank you everybody so much for watching. I hope you could extract any use out of this comparison. If you could do so, then I would highly appreciate you liking, sharing the video, subscribing maybe to the channel. Let me know down below in the comments which microphone you like the most, and if you had any surprise winners in there as well, or if everything went as expected. Would love to talk with you guys out there. You know, gear and, you know, nerding out about this stuff is my absolute passion, so always happy to engage with everybody out there. Thank you so much again for watching. I'm going to see you in the next video, and until then, stay metal.